If you had 10,000 subscribers, no money, bills stacking up, and brand new real-life responsibilities rolling into your life, do you think that would be a good time to try going full-time on YouTube? Probably not, and we also wouldn't encourage you because at that point in your life, it sounds like going full-time on YouTube would be a massive risk. Well, today, you're gonna meet a creator who took the risk anyway. Canadian guy A played the hand that he was dealt and went all in on YouTube. I thought I would bring this story to you today because I thought it would be helpful. After my conversation with Canadian Guy, I am now looking at full-time content creation on YouTube through a whole new lens. Let's start though from the beginning. Canadian Guy knew from a young age that his passion was in video editing. His talents were recognized by his teachers at school, and he even went to college specifically for video editing, and that's where he met his wife. So you could say at this point, things were looking up.
After I met my wife, within a 3-month span, I was about to graduate, and then we were going to get married right around the same time. And then before I even graduated, I got accepted at a local job to do animation editing. I felt like I was on cloud 9 for a whole year. It was like, wow, you know, I graduated, I got my lifetime job, here we go. And then reality set in. A year later, I got laid off.
He lost his job, and this was just the first time. Keep watching because it won't be the last. And this raises a very important concern because a lot of people working regular jobs have to worry about being laid off for reasons beyond their control. And now at this point, Canadian Guy was going through that very experience.
I quickly learned that in the editing industry, people jump from job to job to job to job all over the place. And I was like, wow, I really don't like that. I like being able to set my roots and be like, okay, here's where I work and that's it.
Real world job instability is one of the big reasons why a lot of people look to carve out their own ways of making money and potentially become their own employers. That's why we always encourage creators who want to monetize their channels to start treating their channels like a business from day one. So with the loss of this job, Canadian Guy needed a distraction.
I entered a bit of a steep depression. I was really sad. I was like, wow, this just blows. I thought I failed. I thought I didn't do good enough. And there was all this self-doubt. And so what had happened was earlier that year, they had announced that Crash Bandicoot was coming back with the Insane trilogy. And I remember playing Crash Insane and I thought, hey, you know what would be cool? Let's do a review.
Whether he knew it or not at this point, this is the moment where Canadian Guy started looking at his channel like it was a business. This is because he noticed he was doing something that holds a lot of creators back.
I had fiddled with YouTube for 7 years at this point with just my anime music videos, random gameplays, clips that I would play. It was a mess. It was an absolute mishmash of just garbage. That's the best way to describe it.
He had been posting videos without any kind of specific focus or a particular audience in mind. So he sat down and realized this is probably about where I need to pick a niche. Now that niche was the comeback of a very nostalgic game, which was Crash Bandicoot. But instead of just focusing on one game, he ended up focusing on one audience because there was another game that not a lot of people were talking about, and that was Spyro, which has a very similar audience if you don't know anything about these games.
When you're tapping into this untapped potential, all this new content that no one's really talking about, but there are people interested, and that was the key, is that people are interested, but they don't know that they're interested yet. They were interested in Crash and Spyro, and you know, they're on YouTube and all of a sudden they get suggested Spyro the Dragon, and it triggers that nostalgia. But then you go through my videos, you're like, oh, he talks about Crash. I remember playing Crash too.
The audience he's focusing down on is very specific, but not too specific to where there's not still some potential, because hundreds of thousands of people have played these games. The videos Canadian Guy wanted to make were really going to play into people's nostalgia for these old games that were being remade. So after figuring all this out, he posts this new video, and then something happened that might feel all too relatable.
I remember there was the moment that I knew that there was something there. I posted it, and at the end of the day, it had 12 views. And I remember being really depressed because I worked really hard on that video. I did research, I scripted, I edited, and I made sure I did everything that I could. I only got 12 views, and I was really like, that sucks, right? That feels bad.
I know there's probably so many of you out there that have experienced this. I have myself. You put in so much time into a video, and then virtually nobody sees it. But maybe you'll feel encouraged by this, because having a video that didn't perform up to expectations, Canadian Guy wanted to try something a little bit different to see if he could give it a boost.
I had another idea where it was like, why don't you maybe throw it on social media somewhere? And I didn't want to do Facebook. I wanted actual people that were interested. So I decided to go to ye old Reddit and I found that there was a Spyro Reddit, and I thought, all right, I'll post a video there and leave it at that.
It's a good thing you did, because after a few days, the video got over 1,000 views and comments and engagement were starting to come in. Even cooler than that, this experience had attracted 2 other creators, also kind of smaller channels, who were also interested in Crash Bandicoot and Spyro. The 3 creators began chatting, and they started to trade information about the potential return of Spyro, which is something they were all kind of curious about and thinking this could happen one day. The 3 of them all went to different socials and started posting their content and kept trying to build that hype. Not only did this experience indeed build the hype, but it also built a community. And building that really solid community of people who are all kind of thinking the same thing is super important for going full-time on YouTube. We'll get back to that in a moment, but Canadian Guy at this stage in the journey has 5,000 subscribers. And if you remember, he was laid off, so all of this is going on without him actually having a job. But one day, at around 5,000 subscribers, he gets that call to come back to work. However, he had learned from his mistakes the last time, and while he had this job and was putting in the hours at work, he still found time to keep building up his presence on YouTube. So this is all going on for a while, and one day he wakes up because his phone is just exploding. It turns out all of this hype that he and other creators were trying to build around the potential return of Spyro had come true, because details leaked about a new Spyro game. And while that alone, as a fan of the game, was exciting in itself, something else really awesome happened.
What had happened was that my channel was already established in the keywords Spyro Remastered and Spyro Remaster. So when that trailer dropped and people were looking for information, the first channel that was coming up was mine.
The seeds he had sown were starting to sprout. His older content was now ranking in search because of this new trend. He knew that this was something he had to leverage right now. So the goal, make as much content as possible. The problem? He has a full-time job and a family to support. With his work schedule keeping him from making a proper video, he decided to pivot a little bit.
So I did a live stream reporting on it live. And I remember as I was talking about it, the viewers started at like 27 and then 30, 40, 50, 100, 200, 300, 500 people were watching.
He adapted and he tried making a new style of content he wasn't used to making. That decision, though, meant that he was one of the first creators to start reporting on this news in real time. This live stream introduces him to a whole new audience and a new revenue stream, because when you're live, you can get things like super chats. And this is a topic where it's really easy to make a lot of content because he was super passionate about these games. And before he knew it, he had hit 10,000 subscribers. So things are great. He's got a new job, his wife is pregnant, and they've just moved into a larger place. But then real life strikes again. Canadian Guy gets laid off from his job a second time with a baby due in just 2 days. So no job, and now no money because they had just spent everything moving into this new place. And if all of that wasn't bad enough, one day, out for a drive, their car gets totaled. I honestly don't think there's a movie written in such a way where the main character has like all of these struggles pile on all at once. The audience would just walk out because it wouldn't be seen as realistic.
We hit a fight or flight situation where we're like, doom was very much looming. We felt very much like, this is it. This is like, we're done. We're toasted. My wife said, what about YouTube? And I said, you think we can do it? We only have 10,000 subscribers. I've never heard of that before, where they can say, yeah, I can pay my bills with 10,000 subs.
Despite everything going on, Canadian Guy stuck with it. He doubled down on what was already working, and he took time to experiment with new types of content that he felt like his audience might enjoy. Today, he has over 70,000 subscribers, with YouTube remaining his primary source of income. And the stakes for Canadian Guy throughout this whole experience were really high. His family had grown, and his bills had gone up quite significantly since when he first started YouTube. He took a risk, and it paid off. But it's really important to note that that risk was not taken without a lot of confidence on his end. If you look at his channel, it's clear to see that once Canadian Guy started to take his content really seriously, he didn't stop doing that. He didn't deviate and he didn't mess around. I thought you guys would find it pretty cool that this level of independence could be achieved with only 10,000 subscribers. It goes to show that if you can take YouTube seriously and follow your passions, build a real community, you don't have to wait till 100,000 subscribers before giving this your full attention. But listen, it's still not going to be easy. YouTube takes a lot of time to achieve real growth. And that's why we made this video right here. Let's see if we can get you past that hurdle and maybe get you your first 10,000 subscribers.